2026 Chambersburg Area School Board of Directors Committee of the Whole meeting. If you would, please rise me for Pledge Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Prior to this evening's meeting, the board did meet in an executive session to go over personnel and contract matters. Item 2.03, resignation of Ms. Stephanie Harbaugh. The board and superintendent received Ms. Harbaugh's resignation letter last week. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Stauffer to explain the process, and then board, we can kick it around a little bit. The big part of this is the timeline, which is 30 days, and I'll let Mrs. Stauffer tell the rest of the story.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. So the purpose for this evening is to just discuss what the process the board will need to go through in order to replace Ms. Harbaugh, excuse me. As Mr. Norcross mentioned, the board has 30 days to appoint a new member to the school board. This process must be advertised, the vacancy, and then there are public interviews that are conducted. From there, the board has a discussion, selects a candidate, votes on that new board member. This individual will remain on the term for the remainder of Ms. Harbaugh's term. And really the process concludes with the administration of the oath. This individual would need to come from the region that Ms. Harbaugh currently serves.
So on the timeline, right, we need to get the advertisement out. And does that have to go in print, or
Yep.
by Sunshine that has to go in print?
Correct.
I know this has happened, Chris and I were just talking yesterday about it, maybe 5, 6 times that I can think of in the past 16 years. And it is a quick process, which is good for a couple reasons. One, you get back to a committee of 10 quickly, and you know, one thing Chris and I talked about, and I'll throw it out to start the discussion, and then we can all talk some more. We were targeting the June 2nd night, which is already on everyone's calendar, when we were going to talk big picture option scenarios with schools of distinction and financing. And I mentioned to Chris, I know at least 2 of those occasions, we did the interview, we swore the accepted, you know, we did the swearing in of the candidate that the board voted on, and they took a seat immediately and participated in the meeting that evening. That's a little bit of history, but any other people's thoughts? Maybe the timeline, when would the advertisement go out, and how long we would need to, we still would, if we want to go with the June 2nd date, we need to agree on, well, that would be the interview night. Also.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall, Mr. Norcross. I think we gave them like a week or 2 from when the ad went out to submit a letter of interest to the board of directors. It normally takes about 2 to 3 days to get things advertised in the public opinion. So if we issue the ad, once we settle on a date, if we issue the ad tomorrow, I would think it would be in the paper by Friday at the latest.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So just for clarification, when the ad, when it's advertised and someone submits a letter of interest, will it include a resume?
It can. If the board would like a resume,
Yep.
yes, we can ask for that.
And as a point of clarification, because I went through the policy several times and it wasn't clear to me, but a candidate that is interested in the position vacated by Ms. Harbaugh, preferences given to someone in the district or region that she vacated, and if no one is interested, then we can open it up to all comers in the district.
Sort of. We have to get special permission to do that.
From the, yes,
By law, it has to come from the district. In the past, there has been, in the recent past, there were one instance where I think we did 2 advertisements within the region. We did not receive any letters of interest, resume, call them letters of interest, I mean, whatever they want to send in. And then we had to, Mrs. Stauffer did the research on this, we had to petition the court before we could go outside the region.
but it should be just a formality, I understand, and,
Yeah,
and I would hope that in the ad, it says specifically, provide a resume, because if someone just says, here's my letter, I'm interested, versus someone who gives them
Yeah.
paragraph and verse about all the things they've done and what they can bring, then there's kind of an apples and oranges comparison, so.
Just for clarity on Mike, on June 2nd, there will be an interview process that's public. So
Right.
they would get up and present their resume, basically, why they should be on the board. And the board asks questions at that time, and then at the end of that meeting, you would select the candidate through board voting process.
Personally, I would love to be able to read a person's resume long before the interview, just me, but, you know, I can work with any situation I guess we get.
We would get them ahead of time. So if you follow the timeline Tammy laid out, it'd be 2 weeks from this Friday that we would receive, and then that would be time for the June 2nd meeting, which is already scheduled. It'd be a special meeting at the beginning of that June 2nd meeting. We would do that first, more than likely, and then get into our vote for the budget. And then we would have a CAL presentations of facilities and financing.
so really it'd be 3 separate meetings.
Yeah, yeah. And so if you want to bump one of those, you can certainly have a special meeting for any of the, not the budget. You can have a special meeting for the voting of a board member, or you could have a special meeting for the presentations, architecture, the architects aren't coming, but the projects and the funding. If you feel that's too much on June 2nd.
What you just outlined sounds good to me.
I think from our earlier discussions with the board, right, schedules, calendars are getting full, which is why we, picked the June 2nd anyway.
And I don't see that any of the 3 items are going to be extremely lengthy.
Okay,
So are we setting the time for, at 6 o'clock before the meeting, or? No, I'm just, we'll put that in.
might be a good idea. I want to check my calendar if anyone else wants to check theirs. That might be a very good idea if we can do it a little earlier. Yeah, earlier suits my schedule fine on that date. I don't know what anyone else's calendar
So
looks like.
interviews at 6?
Great idea, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we'll work through the advertising
Okay.
process and collecting the resumes and interest, and we'll get them to you at the end of that 2-week window.
All right. Item 2.04 is order of business, the agenda for this evening's committee of the whole, and that it's not a voting meeting. We don't need to vote on our agenda. Item 3.01, superintendent's report. Mr. Bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. It is the end of the year, approaching with all the ceremonies, graduations, recognitions. So it's a busy time of the year, so if you have time in your schedule, please attend as many as you can. Certainly graduations are our top priority for attending those. You have before you the print calendar that was mailed home to families. So thank Bev if you see her and the team. Lots of input to create this desk reference, people have called it now. It's not even going on the fridge. There's a ton of information in there. So I do want to thank Bev and everybody that contributed. So we did get that out to all the registered families in the school district, and also kindergarten who register will get some, and we do have some extras around the schools. The last item I have before you, you have a bracelet that was at your table, and you also seen a caricature out in the lobby of yourself. That's from Miss Garrett's class. The students made these for you. And so they left them for you, as well as those caricatures out in the lobby. So if you see Mrs. Garrett, there's a picture of her also out there. The students made all that, so thank her for thinking about us. It's autistic support class in the high school.
Okay.
Yep. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bigger. I'm going to take a little bit, 2-week step back. Last meeting, I mentioned upcoming Principals Week. And then I was shown up, and I love it. Parker then stood up in public comment and, gave tribute and honor to his principals. And young man, that just warmed my heart to hear it. And if that didn't make me feel bad, then after the meeting, Mr. Whitman comes up to me. He says, did you see where Mr. Wagner passed away? I thought, oh, no, I didn't. Well, Mr. Wagner, Kurt and I went to school together, for those of you who haven't heard that, elementary school the whole way up. Mr. Wagner was Mr. Whitman and I's 5th grade teacher, principal. I guess he was head teacher, principal, and classroom teacher. To all the teachers and principals in the world, in the room and listening, it's amazing. And then during lunch duty, he was also the secretary, because his secretary went down and covered the lunch. And then if the phone rang, he had to step out of class to go answer the phone. And then, Mr. Whitman and I, we were just like angels whenever Mr. Wagner stepped out of the room. But then I read through his obituary. I think Ms. Gogler shared it with me. And in classic Mr. Wagner fashion, when you read his obituary, one of his requests were any donations in his honor would be made to the Scotland PTO. So till the end, Mr. Wagner was Chambersburg School District proud. And the other thing I missed, and I should have, is I missed Mother's Day 2 weeks ago. So to all the mothers, sorry I missed that. And we're all here today in this world because of our mothers. Item 4.01, new middle school updates. RLPS.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for having us here. We are here to give you an update on the design and the schedule for the middle school. So our agenda tonight is similar to what our agenda was 3 months ago when we were here. So we will review our progress, our design, the numbers, and where we're going with our schedule. I think the biggest thing that you're going to see different tonight is you're going to see some renderings of the interior and exterior of the building. So we were here about 3 months ago, and since then, been very busy. Some of the things I'd like to point out on that schedule up there, the first two really have to do with our engagement with the faculty in the design. Those meetings helped us get ready for finishing up our DD set of drawings. The March 26th and the May 4th dates up there really have to go towards our site approvals. Our site approvals is our long schedule in us trying to get out to bid. So hitting the MPDS submittal and the traffic impact study, we hit them on schedule. So we are still on target to have approvals for our site by the end of the year. As we talked about earlier with design development, we received design development documents last week, went through a QC process this week, and we'll have our design development done by the end of this week. And then under design activities, we have a number of other things that we've been working on in the meantime. So it's been a very busy 3 months since the last time we met with you. Andy now is going to walk us through the design of the building.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you everybody for having us here this evening.
So as Chris said, design development is wrapping up, and this is the site plan, very similar to what you saw last time, reflective of the full site build out for the new Chambersburg Middle School. I think as busy as we saw the high school campus this evening, I think we all envisioned this campus being just as busy on a beautiful evening such as this, with student activity of multiple sports fields there. And this site plan does reflect the grandstands, the artificial turf field, and track and events. That will be an opportunity to light that field as well as part of the base bid of the project. And the numbers we'll look at in a few slides here reflect that. Those are all part of the site plan there, with the sport facilities to the north, on the north side of the site. And of course, we have the parking in the building. Please don't get distracted by what I like to jokingly call the Finger Lakes there. We are just highlighting very clearly there will be a number of stormwater provisions on site. I think we'll tone those down the next time we have those in a meeting, but not above commenting on that. So there'll be stormwater considerations as there are with any other site, and we're continuing to move forward, as Chris said, with approvals and submissions to the authorities having jurisdiction related to that. The floor plan, this is our design development floor plan. Again, not a large change, hopefully what you recall last time we were together, but it does reflect a lot of really solid input from not only your senior leadership team, but also with your faculty and staff that we sat through with design meetings. So all these spaces within the building, whether they be classrooms, the performing arts area, the athletic areas, the common areas of the building, are all fully fleshed out and reflect the feedback that your constituents within the design process have provided. And we're looking forward to, before we get into the summertime, having another follow-up meeting with a number of your faculty and staff members there at the beginning of June. So let's just kick them right here to the exciting part of the presentation. This is the view here from Stauffer Avenue. So you're looking at the new front of the middle school building. In the foreground where the parking lot areas and driveways are, that's where your existing middle school resides now. The driveway to the left would be your bus drop-off. We have van and visitor parking in the middle there, and parent drop-off on the far right-hand side. Hopefully you see the 3-story classroom wing, but as we zoom into the subsequent slides here, we'll see the new main entrance to the building, with the auditorium and the performing arts areas extending out to the left-hand side of the screen there. Moving in then to that new front entry, this is the main entrance for your building. In a couple slides here, we will see the interior space, that town square 2-story space that this entry leads you into. But on the left-hand side of that entrance, you have your office areas with counseling up above on the 2nd floor, and of course, classroom wing here to the right. Moving back slightly then with that visitor and van drop-off in the foreground, we see the extension of the administration and the front of the building wrapping around that auditorium volume in the back. We have some metal panel there on the exterior of the building, some good masonry, ties in with some hints and cues from the remainder of your buildings, but also striking a new look for the middle school here itself. We'll continue clockwise around the building. This is one of the exciting, I think, view sheds for the project. This is, albeit a little bit higher elevation than what you'll see as you drive by on I-81, but this is the I-81 view shed for the building, with your field houses and athletic areas in the foreground. Have the great opportunity to provide some good messaging and signage there for those driving by, that they are in Trojan country, so to speak, with the logo there on the side of the building. But these will be your athletic areas that support the adjacent stadium and outdoor athletic spaces. As we continue then around to the left-hand clockwise around the building, we'll see the view from McKinley. And this is really this is a 3-story classroom wing. We have different grade level areas as you move up through the 3 stories, with technology education in the heart of the building shown in the foreground, and also extending in towards that central town square of the interior of the building. Wrapping around last but not least, before we go in, again, the end of the classroom wing, another great opportunity to share school spirit and pride in the building with the surrounding community, letting them know that they are here at your building. And now we'll move into that 2-story town square space. And so in through the main entrance vestibule, when your students arrive in the morning, this is the space, one of the spaces they will arrive in. And so it serves as a town square. We have technology areas on the 1st floor with science labs up above on the next 2 floors, 1 floor shown here. On the left-hand side of the screen, hopefully you see seating there, areas there for dining and cafeteria functions. And up above, we have the commons where your library functions, a digital studio, as well as counseling areas are housed. And the last rendering we'll share from the opposite end of the space, looking back towards the main entry. This is the view back again towards that main entry with the library areas and the commons on the second floor in your immediate view there on the second floor, and then just showing off some of the daylit spaces, bringing daylight inside the building for the benefit to all students and the quality of space. And so those are the renderings, just kind of taking you through where we're at now with design development. And as we round out design development, we're very close to those metrics that we shared with you before. We're sticking with the program square footage, and total square footage is within 1,500 square feet of where we shared before. A similar efficient building with a good efficient grossing factor. And the program, of course, as you know, has not changed. One thing I do want to highlight is the 190 to 160 square foot per student. I had a little rounding error there and rounded up. It's really 186 to 156, which again straddles that metric we had discussed previously for middle schools, a range of 160 to 180 square feet per student being appropriate for a building of this size. And then last but not least, the budget there that you see has changed slightly. It's adjusted to reflect the having the track and the grandstands and the lighting of that field in that base bit of the project. And so that's what you see here today.
So next steps, like immediate next steps, some items that are going to happen here in the next couple months. We talked about the completion of the design development and again, getting back involved with the faculty as we continue to evolve the design. But the June 16th and the July 7th tie back into our site approvals. We are going in with our land development submittal June 16th, and then we will get the first comments on July 7th. So again, in line with the schedule we had laid out previously. The other thing that shows up there is our Act 34. We are working on the booklet for the Act 34 meeting. We will come back to the board June 23rd to get the booklet approved, and then we're looking for July or August to have that Act 34 hearing. We're still working on scheduling of that. So that's immediate. The back end, we are finishing our drawings up by the end of September, beginning of October. We use October as a QC process for us. So we will have that complete by the 26th of October. So theoretically, we could be ready to go for permits and bids by October 26th. There's an asterisk there. We have to wait until we get all of our site approvals. And right now, we think the site approvals are still on track for the end of the year. If that's the case, we could go out for bidding in January, February, and then bring the bids back to the board in March if all that plays out per the schedule. So, any questions at this point?
Board members, questions?
What is the Act 34?
So the Pennsylvania School Code requires a school for new construction or significant additions and renovations to produce a booklet about the design and the background and the need for a project, and then you cap a cost for that project at that Act 34 meeting. So it's that whole process for that approval.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a nice laydown, gentlemen. Chris, I happen to know you were at Ignite in Kentucky,
Yes.
and and it was a great time. And it's very reminiscent. Some of the renderings now kind of take me back to that environment where looking down on the dining facility, you know, from the space.
Yep.
They're awesome renderings. I'm imagining that's just how it's going to look for real.
It's going to be very similar to that.
All right,
Very good.
thank you.
Good.
I have a question about the track. Is it being bid for 8 lanes?
Yes, it is designed. It'll be designed for 8 lanes
Okay.
with the appropriate event spaces around surrounding the track as well. So
Okay.
our partners in crime here, HRG, with the civil engineer, it's doing the civil engineering, are accommodating that.
Second question is about the color scheme. I love the color scheme. I think it looks amazing. But, and I say this as somebody that loves blue. I think it's okay if we use a little bit of some other colors. I love at the high school, there's some orange and yellow. So I don't know if you're like pretty set. If you are set, I love it as is. But if there's a place to incorporate a few other colors, that'd be
Absolutely.
cool. Just
No,
just here and there, a
we are-
splash.
Your comment is reminiscent of some of the other comments from your administrators on the design team as well, especially when it comes to the interior spaces. And so I think you'll see some creative solutions to those as we further develop the design. We're actually going to be having a finishes meeting in the coming months here. So we're all working towards that.
Chris, to finish up your schedule, say board approves project in March. 2 other dates, shovels in the ground, and when do students move in?
Okay, so shovels in the ground, if we get the March approval, we will give the notice of intent to the contractors right away so that they'll be moving on site by May. For when students move in, and then I'm gonna go back to your memory on this.
Absolutely. So I can do this. Yeah. So,
School year's fine. We
so
won't
we're
pin
sta-
you to a date.
No,
in mind.
absolutely. So we're starting in the spring of '27, and we're anticipating, round numbers, a 2-year construction period, which will round you out with a completed building sometime in the spring, early summer of '29, which ideally sets you up then for being able to move students in for the fall of the '29-30 school year. And there's a little bit of intentional flexibility built in there to. The construction processes are what they are, and also acknowledging that you as a district need time in the summer to occupy a building of this size to be ready for a school year.
And then after you move in 2029, then we have to demolish the old building. So there's some ongoing site work after the students move in to finish the project.
And then on your slide 14, just for everyone's benefit again, including refresh my memory, the difference between construction cost and project cost, that is design and contingency, or
It's
what else?
design, contingency, it's gonna be furniture, it's gonna be computers that you put into the space, it's gonna be building permits, land development permits. There's a soft cost that adds on to the construction cost to get your total cost. And for a project this size, I think it's about 15 to 18% we estimate for that soft cost.
I wonder if Mr. Bigger, you might elaborate on a point. So not too long ago, there was a possibility that TransSource was interested in putting their power line along 81 that was gonna encroach into the property of the school district, and that's now not the case?
Yeah, unofficially, I did have a meeting with them that they have moved the line along 81 to a different alternate route. So as of today, based on a Zoom call, so I can't put a lot of weight behind it, they're tentatively moving forward without that going by our school. So should be okay, but until you see the application, I'm not committing to that.
Just moved it to someone else's backyard.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Yes, thank you.
Grandview property, Crabtree Rohrbach.
And just while we're transitioning, pay close attention to the timelines of the projects on both projects. On June 2nd, that's the majority of our conversation is what buildings are first and what's the timing and what can we handle financially and also operationally. So that's the big ask on June 2nd. We're gonna walk through the logistics of how we do this with 2 projects at the same time or different times. So just FYI.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Can you hear me? All right, there we go. Thanks for having us. So for our update this month, we're going to show you some of the renderings. We're going to have Sean Dowdy, who's the project manager for the intermediate school, present the renderings, and then Nicole Niles, who is the project manager for the K-3 building. She's going to share that information with you. The other part of our update is we want to talk about that critical path similar to the middle school of the site approvals. And remember, this project needs a highway occupancy permit. So that is very important that we understand what the off-site work needs to be, and how does that, how do we incorporate that into the project bid? We also want to give you a little bit of an update on what we see as a reasonable bid schedule based upon those approvals, and how that will have an impact on when we go out to bid for the project. So our activity, very similar to what RLPS has been doing. What's been very important is receiving feedback from your faculty. We've gone through a couple of different rounds with, for the K-3 building. We're getting ready to go through our second round for the intermediate school. One thing that we've been doing with due diligence is for the stormwater design and footing and foundation design. There's been a geotechnical report that has been done, and we've had some submissions to the municipality, had a submission for highway occupancy permit, and received some more feedback from your traffic engineer on some of these off-site improvements that may be required. So just to give you an update, similar to what we had discussed at the last meeting, after looking at the traffic patterns and the locations of the existing signals, what our traffic engineer is suggesting is signalizing that light along 11 on US 11 on the west side. This would be used both by parents and buses. And then the intersection on the east side, this would be right turn only for ingress and egress. On 997, we're recommending a roundabout, and there has been a submission that has been made to PennDOT to review their study, and to also review these off-site improvements and whether they are deemed appropriate to receive the permit. That 5/8 date, that is a typo, was actually submitted yesterday. Civil engineer also submitted to Green Township to start the land development process in April, about a month ago. And last night there was a meeting with the Planning Commission. Sean and Nicole attended with Matt. We are scheduled to make our first submission to the county for the NPDS permit in July. So as the traffic engineer continued their study, there was some additional off-site improvements that they deemed would be necessary. And these are outlined at these intersections with some suggested improvements. So you'll see line 1 towards Scotland at that intersection of Main and 997, that there is that potential, very good potential, that intersection at that Y would need to be signalized. Also at towards Letterkenny along Coffee Avenue on 997, that may require some turning lanes improvements. And then along Salem Road down towards the McDonald's along Route 11, there's a slight possibility that would also have to be signalized as well. Our understanding there's some other development that's going on back at that intersection. So this is still to be determined. That will need to be reviewed with PennDOT and also with the township. There was another intersection that was looked at along Sycamore, closer to the project site, and the traffic engineer, based upon their recommendations, no improvements would be needed. So with any of those improvements that would be needed for the HOP, we would have to include that work in the off-site construction documents and put this work out to bid. We feel that we have built a off-site contingency from the original budget that we had showed you months ago, that this work can be incorporated within that design contingency. We will have updated budgets to show you of what that impact would be for some actual estimated cost, But we felt that we built in enough of a contingency to cover these costs. Something else that we had done to start looking at stormwater management on the site is a geotech report to do test pits on the infiltration rates, also to do borings to help determine a design for the footings and foundations. This is normal due diligence for every single project. And what was encountered was a lot of shallow bedrock. I think in some cases they were hitting rock within a foot of the finished grade. And what that means for your project is the potential for a lot of rock removal, which would add some additional cost to the project. We encounter this also on every single project, that we will include a rock removal contingency, which was already incorporated into your budget. And the way, and we may have discussed this a little bit, but the way that we will bid the project is with what's called a classified excavation, so that the contractor will provide a unit price cost that every time that they encounter rock, they'll quantify it and they'll remove it, and you will pay at that unit price. And what this translates into is change orders for you every time that they encounter that rock. But we also bid the projects where we have an ad alternate, what's called unclassified excavation, that the contractor will provide you with a lump sum fee on bid day, that they will assume all the responsibility of removing rock for that lump sum cost. So it's an insurance policy for the district. And 99% of the time, we always recommend that you take it. So we're gonna build a little bit more of this rock removal contingency understanding with the amount that's on site. One thing I will say is with the amount of bedrock, that is a great thing for the footings and foundations and for that design. Actually have a project right now where we're dealing with potential for sinkholes during construction. And I think I'd rather have this solid bedrock on the site for suitable soils to lay those footings and foundations. Just a quick update on the floor plans and the area of the building for both of the schools. We are tracking at the K3 building at roughly about 97,000 square feet. Really no change from the last design iteration. But right now for the intermediate school, we're about 347,000, which is a reduction of about 3,700 from the February update. So we're actually decreasing the size of the building. And at the last meeting, we also discussed with you some potential ad alternates. There was 3 of them. One was for an additional 6 classrooms in the 4th and the 5th grade wing. Also the health clinic located at the main entrance, and then a second auxiliary gym. After further discussions with the administration, we've decided to eliminate the ad alternates for the classrooms and for the health clinic. We're going to future-proof the 4th and the 5th grade wings, that if you ever wanted to come back and build those 6 classroom addition onto the 3rd floor, that the structural framing is capable to take on those loads. So that only leaves 1 building ad alternate, and that is the auxiliary gym of about 3,000 square feet. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean and Nicole to go through the renderings for the 2 schools.
Thank you, Anthony. Again, my name is Sean Dowdy, project manager for the 4-6 Intermediate School. So to take you on a little walk around of the building, what you see here is an aerial view from kind of the Route 11 side of the building. So this is the side that will face the highway. And what you see here are the more public sides of the building, including from left to right, the cafeteria, the media center, kind of the main entrance, administrative area, so to speak, and then we're showing the ad alternate for that auxiliary gym to the right. So what you see is a mix of different materials, and we're going to be working in tandem along with the design of the K3 building to build a cohesive palette for the entire campus. So what we're showing are two different colors of masonry, of brick. One is kind of that bright red that you have throughout a lot of your buildings, and then introducing darker red that can kind of make the volumes of the building kind of stand off from each other rather than having one monotonous color throughout. And then accenting it with metal panel with some different textural effects via the undulations of the panels. And actually similarly to what you saw with the RLPS designs, our metal panels kind of introduce some of that blue as well in those vertical stripings. So maybe you see it as a benefit that there's some consistency even by chance.
Great.
So that's a nice, benefit. So this is the side that the school buses will be dropping off their students from kind of the person's eye view. This is the view from that same side. So you can see different accentuations with the fenestration, the windows, to draw specific attention to the media center area in the middle. And that is something I think that did shift from the last design. We moved the media center to the dead center of the building, which we think is a big benefit to the building. You know, it kind of stands as the hub of the building with equal access to all grades. The aerial from the classroom side, so you can see, again, similarly to the RLPS design, it's a 3-story building. We've made a couple different elections, though, and you'll see here, to make most of the masonry a 2-story masonry area, and then using the metal panel for that 3rd story above. So that kind of sets a date on that above the 2nd floor, and that reduces the apparent height of the building. Which goes along with all of our efforts to make this building feel smaller despite its quite large size. So this is a view of the 4th grade wing with the 5th grade just to the right. And then this is a view of the 6th grade wing with the 5th grade wing just to the left. So again, you can see the palette of materials with the bright red, the darker, and then the metal panel with various different textures and colors throughout. I'll give it to Nicole for Green Village.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nicole Niles, project manager for the K-3 building. Going the wrong way. So as Anthony mentioned, no real significant changes to your K-3 building plan here. We had a pretty tight plan the last time we came to you guys with this. The program was previously developed. I think we had a little bit of a head start on this one. So we're coordinating with consultants. Things are going to shift around a little bit, but not in a substantial way. So this is the aerial view of the K-3 building. We are looking at the main entrance. So what you can see on the parking lot side is the drop-off island. The loop on the far side is for buses and vans, and the loop on the near side is for parents. This way, all of the kids are coming in a single entrance, which is really best practices for safety and security. And then you can see kind of going out the back, the 2-story masses, which are your academic wings. So at this school, only a 2-story building. Smaller school, smaller kids, trying to keep everything feeling down to the right scale. You're gonna see the same materials being used here, the 2 types of brick, the metal panel with the blue accents, the blue canopies to signify entrance, so that if I'm someone coming to this campus, there's a really common architectural language here. I know where I'm going, I know what it looks like, and it looks the same between the buildings. This is a perspective view of the main entrance from that drop-off island. So again, you can see the canopy there. You can start to see the blue working its way into the ribbed panels at the entrance. The smaller masses in the darker brick, which in this case happens to be the specials. So art, music, gym. We're really kind of going with that form follows function thing here, not making the architecture anything more than it needs to be. And we also have some site elements that we've incorporated in with feedback from your director of security to make sure that we've got not just bollards, but also sight walls, things that are a little more attractive to look at, but still accomplishing the safety and security concerns. This is a view from your flex field of the gymnasium. So the gymnasium is the metal panel portion of the building, and the cafeteria. So a lot of glazing where we want to be able to give kiddos lots of daylight and access to views outside, but in a way that's safe and secure. And then this is a view from the secure learning area, so where the playground would be on the end of the academic wings. So you can see in the metal panel, we have the stairs that go and connect the two levels. That's also your access points out into a secure learning courtyard, as well as your playground area. And then beyond what you see, if you recall, we discussed in the plan a while ago that the media center is in the center of this building, a 2-story mass, so that we can really make sure that those upper levels feel connected to the rest of the building. And the STEAM classroom is inserted in there so that those two programs really play with each other and talk to each other, and there's just a really good vertical connection there. So that's the expression of it on the outside of the building, and I think it's going to be a really beautiful moment where it goes from inside to outside.
Just a quick question on transportation. What's the difference between the loop on the buses and then the angled parking on the buses with the intermediate? I'm sure you guys were.
I was wondering that myself.
So intermediate school has angled parking for the buses when for drop off. The elementary school is more of the loop pattern. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. This angled is just more of a space saver, where it doesn't have enough of a queuing line, because I believe we have 30 buses at this. 35 yeah. Buses, yeah. So if those buses were to park like front to back, the length of that bus line would be the whole width of the campus almost. So by angling them, this is the most efficient way to save space. And what would happen is at dismissal, the way the buses would dismiss is one at a time from the front, so we don't have any buses backing up. That's what we want to try to avoid, is buses backing up. And this also allows for the entrance, the door of the bus to be curbside, so that students can, just walk right off the bus, maybe take a step on the street, but next step is going onto the sidewalk. So for the next steps, I mentioned that we are finalizing our faculty meetings in June after the end of school. We've had some great conversations with Matt and determining a basis of design for the HVAC system. We're going to start engaging our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers more with the district and their administration and discussing IT data, safety and security. We also have a flow test that is going to be scheduled in the next month or so to determine if we need a pump for the fire protection system. And we're going to get food service meetings started as well with your food service director, and we're going to continue with the site approvals with the township, the county, and with the state. With those approvals, I mentioned that they are the critical path. And the HOP is a very lengthy approval process. However, we want this building to open by the summer of 2029. And we feel that to achieve that, we need to get this project or these projects out to bid by the end of this year. The land development, the PennDOT approval will not be a condition of land development. So we anticipate that the land development and the county approval can be achieved by the end of the year, that we could go ahead and put this project out to bid in November. But it would require a second phase of bidding for the off-site improvements once we receive the highway occupancy permit, that portion of the project would be bid in the winter of 2027. So what we're proposing for that first phase in the fall This is a little different from the last time that I had reviewed this with you, but we would look at 4 prime contracts. The general construction would include the site construction for the campus, for the entire campus. And then your mechanical, electrical, and your plumbing contractor. When we bid for the HOP work, for the off-site improvements, that would be a separate site contractor that would bid on that work. But we feel that this schedule is the quickest way to get shovels in the ground for the bricks and mortar of the school. So just to give you an overview, we would anticipate bringing the Act 34 resolution to you in September. And after you adopt that resolution of your maximum building construction cost, we would have the hearings in October. You will be required to have a hearing for both projects. So you'll have to adopt a resolution for the K3 and then one for the intermediate school. And then roughly 3 weeks after that resolution, we would have a hearing for both of the projects. We would seek your approval to release the project for bidding in November, and then a couple of weeks shortly after that, we would release it for bidding so that we could have the bids back and review with you end of December, beginning of January, and then look for your approval of intent to award sometime in January and get contractors started by the end of January. That is perfect timing for them to have shovels in the ground in the beginning of spring. One other thing I didn't have on the agenda was a follow-up to the solar study that KCI did. So we have Samantha Corbel from KCI here to answer any questions. But based upon the solar study that they did, our recommendation is to not pursue solar on this site. There are some land use challenges with the solar arrays and putting them on the site, and then also looking with the upfront costs and how expensive it is. We do not feel that payback is cost effective for the district, because paying that off over a 20-year period, 25-year period, is not the most cost-effective decision. So if you have any questions regarding the solar study, Samantha is here to answer that. But if you have any other questions on the design, Nicole, Sean, and I can take those questions.
And to kind of add on to that, we will still be designing the buildings to take on the load of potentially future solar panels that you might put on the roof. So we're leaving that possibility open to you, although we're not recommending it at this time.
Board members' questions?
Yeah, I have a solar question. And I'm assuming it's pretty straightforward that when you look at the break-even point of the investment, you're also projecting the cost of consuming local energy, and even with that, and knowing that it's going to increase, it still doesn't. It's out there 25 years for a break-even on the investment.
I don't know the exact here, but the ROI was
Out there.
yeah pretty tough, especially with just government incentives changing and the environment right now.
Okay.
I think it's kind of slow this.
Let her have the mic, please. Just, I think everyone in the room can hear well, but I'm worried about those online. Thank you.
So, is it on?
Green.
It is green. Oh, there we go.
The battery's dead.
So, in our study, we looked at 2 different options. One that prioritized space, so it was rooftop and canopy, and then another option that was just rooftop and ground solar. The second option prioritized cost efficiency because the canopy is kind of expensive. Both options, though, didn't have an ROI until, oh, thank you. The cheaper option was between 10 and 15 years, although our cost estimates were idealized, so they don't include operations and maintenance costs. And our study, because there are still so many unknowns, maximized as much area for solar as we could. So these numbers, the cost could be higher. And then the option that prioritized open space, the ROI was over 20 years. So the changes in federal tax credits and other funding mechanisms, I think, drove the decision to not pursue solar at this time. But as I said, they're gonna future-proof the roof structure so that you avoid all that added cost if you decide to try to retrofit the roof later on.
And if those incentives change in the future, you will be prepared to take advantage of them, right? So I'll say it again with the microphone, if the incentives change in the future, you guys will have the infrastructure in place to be able to take advantage of it at that time, when the math might be a little more favorable.
Thank you both.
I think maybe to help facilitate this discussion, I think I mentioned to Chris here just a minute ago. If we want to talk about solar, maybe we can, if you have solar questions or something, let's do that, and then we'll go to the buildings, so we're not jumping back and forth on topics, if that makes sense. So, thoughts, questions, any comments on the solar matter?
I think you said 10 to 15 years. At what point do you usually say, oh, that does make sense? Yeah, if you're getting, in terms of ROI, does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
Or is that just a moving target?
Kind of a comfort level with you.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay.
Matt, what was the ROI on Scotland and Fayetteville?
Yeah, those projects had an ROI of about 3.5 to 4 years, and that was based on we were able to get the federal incentives as well as the Solar for Schools grant. And keep in mind, when she's talking about ROI, there are some significant operation and maintenance costs in solar, and so these ROIs of 15 years and over 20 years do not include any operation and maintenance costs either. So when you really add that in, we're really getting to the payback close to the life cycle of the panels, and it just doesn't really make sense. So
Very different than 3 or 4.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Other questions on the rest of the project, buildings?
When will we be, I know the other group said, 29 moving in. Would it be the same here, moving in 29?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm curious about the off-site improvements. How many miles away from the site are we responsible for? And is there any consideration for other business development that is impacting that same area? For instance, the Coffee Avenue, there is all kinds of development in that Letterkenny area that it does not make sense to me, but I don't know that much about construction, but it doesn't make sense that we are responsible for turn lanes at Coffee Avenue when Burnside and all kinds of other businesses are benefiting. There's a big trucking firm that's going in at the corner of Coffee Avenue. Why would they not be responsible to put turn lanes in there? The Salem Road signal has been talked about for years relative to businesses that are already there, and now we are responsible to pay. Are we the cash cow, or?
Yeah, so the off-site improvements are, they're predicated on the traffic impact from having the school at this location. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that PennDOT understood was that the existing school is going to be closed. So some of the existing traffic, because that school is essentially relocating, that needs to be factored into these off-site improvements. The one at Salem Road, that is still to be determined. Our understanding, there was, I believe, a data center that was potentially being built there. I'm not sure of all those details, but that
Might be a warehouse.
or a warehouse, yeah. So again, until we start talking to the Department of Transportation and also have the municipality look at the traffic study as well, these are just calculations based upon the additional traffic and the impacts on these adjacent intersections. We may encounter where the Department of Transportation and the municipality do not agree on what is to be included in your responsibility. We don't know that yet. There still needs to be more discussion. We just had the first meeting with the Planning Commission. The first submission was made to PennDOT yesterday. So we will continue to update you on their requirements and their review.
Penny, if I could just add to that a little bit. So again, nothing is set in stone here yet. We just sent recommendations in to PennDOT, and we're still waiting on their approval process. But the Salem Road intersection, our recommendations went in from our traffic engineer we're not recommending any improvements there, because while there is, it met the criteria of improvements needed based on PennDOT studies, it's believed that it's an existing condition and not necessarily a condition of our school. So our recommendation from our traffic engineer was no improvements at the Salem Road. The Coffee Avenue is kind of a unique, it's that 5-way intersection out there. Again, there is a possibility that PennDOT could come back. The turning lanes that are proposed, that was part of the county's Green Township's master plan, and it's believed by our traffic engineers that those turning lanes will not help the traffic congestion at that intersection. So again, I think that we're going in there where we're not recommending any improvements. The Sycamore Grove intersection, that's where the trucking company is going in, directly across the street from Sycamore Grove Road. Their entrances will actually line up, and when that project is approved, they will be providing a signal at the Sycamore Grove. And then as far as Main Street, Scotland, that is an intersection where there is degradation based on our traffic numbers. That is also on Green Township's master plan for a signal there. So that is one where we feel confident that PennDOT is probably going to push us to signalize that. But, you know, to offset that, the township has a traffic impact fee that they charge every new project in the township. And it's based on the number of trips that you generate, and then they have a dollar amount for whatever section of the township you're in. And our traffic impact fee was estimated about $760,000 to Green Township. How that works is if the signal light at Main Street, if we are required to do that, if that costs $760,000 or more, we do not pay the traffic impact fee, and if it's over that amount, then the township will credit us on permitting fees. If it's under that, if say it's $500,000 to do the traffic signal, then our district is only responsible for paying the difference between the $500,000, and it's almost like a credit. So just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit as to where we are with the actual traffic studies.
Will the new exit from Letterkenny impact that traffic study? Because Letterkenny is opening a new gate between Culbertson and Air Hill.
Yeah, so I do not know whether our traffic study was in conjunction with anything that the federal government's doing at Letterkenny. I do know that the trucking, the warehouse that's going in out there, we did, our studies were coordinated, and KCI does have a copy of their study. I don't know what was done with the federal government, though.
So as Matt mentioned, our study was coordinated with the warehouse because that project is far enough along in the process that we were able to do that. The Letterkenny project is not.
Oh,
So
it's under construction now.
I think there is a greater project that our traffic engineers are aware of or in the works over there, but hasn't been formalized. So there is going to be a conversation between Green Township and our traffic engineer about who is ultimately responsible for that. And as Matt mentioned, what's going to PennDOT right now is an argument that this is an existing condition, not made worse.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of moving parts, unfortunately, right now at that intersection. We can't for sure tell you what way it's gonna go. But for the sake of just preparing everyone for the potential worst case scenario, these were the 4 sites that did show impacts as a result of our project.
2's the one that's the most confusing to me because 90% of our kids are coming from the south. And those that are coming from the north are already coming through there when they go to Cam's North or Cash's. So I just don't see a big impact at that particular intersection in the same way that there may be at the other ones.
Other questions? First, I would like to thank you and commend you on slide 25. If you remember a couple meetings ago when you mentioned about a separate bid package for site work, that there are many things that keep me up at night, and that was one of them at the time, because I was concerned, you know, I know some contractors, and we can be messy folks, and you give us an inch and we'll take them out. And I was afraid that was gonna take a full-time referee to officiate the parties and who's responsible for what. So I appreciate that. I think that's great. I also love the idea of a separate contract for the off-site improvements. Contractors are contractors, but even a site work contractor versus a highway contractor are different contractors. So I think that's great. My only question and recommendation is back on the alternate, add alternate. Have you ever flipped that? I was so happy, I was worried that which way you were gonna go with that add alternate for a classified excavation. Most times people go with unclassified because of the risk with it. My question is, should the base bid be unclassified and the alternate be a classified?
The advantage to having it as an alternate is that you get to see the price of it on bid day. Where if you have the unclassified as the base bid, that cost is just buried in there.
Well, you would still see it with a difference. It's math. If the alternate were a classified excavation, it would be a deduct. It'd be a deduct to the base bid.
You could do it as a deduct, but sometimes when you do the deducts, you don't quite get the same value for a deduct as what you do for an add alternate. And what we like, our approach is to try to bring the base bid in. That is the low number. So then you're looking then to, hey, we're under budget. We have the flexibility where we can add things like the auxiliary gym, rather than, okay, we have to take things away from the project and do deducts. Yes, and there's the potential that any of these alternates could determine who the low bidder is. But yeah, our approach is to try to see the lowest number on bid day, so.
Because the other part that would concern me, again, I agree 100% with you that unclassified excavation is the way to go, because again, with a site of this size, 80-ish acres, you know, it'll take an accountant and a referee to keep track of what's rock and what isn't rock.
99% of the time, we recommend that you take it. And it wouldn't just be for the general construction. Electrical is gonna have some site work as well for the light poles, so we'll have an unclassified for them. There's the potential for the plumbing contractor to have some site work that's 5 feet outside the building. We would have one for them as well. But the majority would be with the general contractor.
I have a question that may be difficult to answer on the spot, but do you have an approximate size for how big those courtyards are? I just ask because I look at them and I'm trying to envision how big the space is and what the sunlight is like with a 3-story building, how close, the closer they are, the two wings,
Sure.
the less sunlight you have. So that might be really tough though on the spot. So
Yeah.
I'm curious though.
Yeah, as far as the size, I mean, we could very easily do a square footage takeoff. The other thing that we can also do with this software is we can do solar studies to show like the different time of day
Sure.
and the different time of year, how much the playground would be potentially be cast in shadow.
Cool. Not an essential question, just curious.
The auxiliary gym, is that something that we have to agree to, or has it been added? Because I'm certainly in favor of adding it, but I didn't know, since it said add alternate, whether that's been decided.
You don't
or-
have to make a decision until we see the bids. So when we receive the bids, we'll see what that additional cost is for the auxiliary gym. And if you're within budget and you have some wiggle room with your budget, we would review that with the administration and make a recommendation one way or the other if we feel that it's, that's in your best interest to accept it or not.
Well, I think we need to consider the cost benefit of building it now versus needing it later.
That's a factor, for sure.
It will never be as cheap as it is
No.
when we do it now.
Exactly. I'm glad to hear that we will be able to add those extra classrooms without any problem if we need them, because I would have been concerned that we should add them now rather than later otherwise.
And you can see on these aerials where exactly they would go on the middle wing and the wing on the left-hand side, where it's 2 stories instead of 3.
I had a question on your, the glass on the stairwells, safety. I like the light, but is that a safety issue at all with all those students going through those stairwells with the glass?
Yeah, so one thing that we like to promote, and we also have, we're also very firm believers in what's called crime prevention through environmental design, which is an organization made up of designers and law enforcement. And one thing that's very important in school construction is transparency and to be able to see into these different spaces. Sometimes it's very important that in the event of a lockdown, that first responders and law enforcement can see into the building. And even with day-to-day issues as well, with bully prevention and just supervising children. There are things that we can do sometimes where maybe we don't bring the glazing all the way down to the finished floor or to finished grade, but we have been all of our design meetings. Your security director is a part of those,
Well, I was hoping that,
and when he wants to provide input, he will, and there are some things that we will ask him for his opinion on. I think one of them was the cafeteria at this rendering right here. And whether or not it's okay that we could bring that glazing down to finished elevation. And his opinion, it wasn't an issue because it was kind of in the back of the building. But he has been providing that type of input through our design meetings.
Okay, good.
Other questions? Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
That popped up. I didn't see it on any of the renderings, and maybe I just missed it, but is there fencing around the entire perimeter of the property or anything like that?
That has not been determined yet. And where the fencing would most likely be required is at the stormwater basins and the height of them. So we need to get through that first and then determine what areas around the site that you would want fencing, you know, at the multi-purpose fields, obviously at the playgrounds, which I think we do have, for both of the schools, we have some fencing shown. But for the rest of the site, some of that's going to come down to the municipality and the design of the stormwater basins.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Item 4.03, grades 4 to 8, educational programming update. So this will touch both campuses, both the Borough campus and the Green Village campus.
I believe, the only lefty to use the mic. And I did not plan on a podium. I feel I'm a mover, so bear with me. You are correct. We are going to review very quickly 2 beautiful blueprints, and it made me very excited to hear that you love the color scheme and what you see so far, because we've been working on that quite a bit. But there is one kind of blueprint remaining to review tonight, and now that they're safely out of earshot, I believe the most important of the 3.
You are on YouTube.
Yeah. I'll say it, and I'll say it proudly. I do believe that it is really the most important of the 3, and it is the driving force for why you have these decisions to make in the next couple of weeks and months. So we're going to take a look at what we've been designing for the future. We're kind of living in the now and planning for the future. This goes way beyond building buildings. We are really crafting and creating an educational community. So we're going to look back just briefly before we look forward. 2.5 years ago, there was a large group of people that created our blueprint, our workforce groups. They looked at the facilities and the reconfiguration of grades. They also looked at the pillars of our CASD blueprint and identifying those so that we had a common goal of one educational community. And that community is for all students, not only just one big place to attend school, but where they can feel like they really have a favored, very genuine sense of belonging. So once we identified 4 through 6 and 7 and 8, that 4 through 8 gap, very daunting in one quick look, but really a critical connection between their K-3, their elementary experience, and then where they're going in 9 to 12. And you've heard Mrs. Luffy and Mr. Ocker kind of talk about those academies. We are the essential connection piece, 4 to 8. So ready to explore that. We have spent, believe it or not, the last year has flown in already laying the groundwork. Shovels have not hit the ground. We've been building the foundation prior to that. So looking at stakeholders, you've heard both architecture teams talk about the meetings that have taken place. Those have included a high number of teachers. Our support staff, office staff has been involved. Teachers involved have been representative of both academics and like our core subjects and our fine arts or related art departments, as well as administration. And so when we look at just their feedback in the design phase, we've also started, although it might be baby steps, we've started with some academic conversations, our current programming, and what we want that programming to look like thinking future forward. In October, the first time I talked with you, one of the biggest goals of the middle level was to create a unified schedule. I'm happy to report that after a lot of work and collaboration among teachers and admin, we do have a unified, agreed upon middle school schedule for next year. We will launch that in 26-27. It isn't often There I am. I'll move around. It isn't often that we have the gift of time. Here, we have the gift of time. So launching that new schedule for middle school next year provides us an opportunity to tweak that and fine-tune it in preparation for what we want to roll out in the middle school 7-8 building, and take those like secret success ingredients of teaming, a unified schedule, and take components of that and implement those in our intermediate building. The last is really a trend and a step forward into the future. We've already started with some collaboration, bringing groups of people together that aren't normally working together on a day-to-day basis. And you're really going to see that gain momentum within the next year. So let's focus on very large picture, very large district, not just as an administrator, but also as a parent. I have felt this could be overwhelming at times. You're about to make some decisions on 2 very large buildings. In order to make those buildings feel smaller, cozier, more appropriate, thank you. We really have a concept that we've tried to bring to life in all the decisions that we have moving forward. So that concept is going to ask you to envision some components of what we already have in existence in the middle schools, but really kind of focus on opening the door, large building, one community, bringing one entire grade level together for the first time ever, starting in 4th grade. Once you're in the building, and you saw on some of the drawings of the intermediate, I'm striking out here tonight, we have gone from community to neighborhood. This does not count against my time. Think community, dwindle down a little, narrow your focus into a neighborhood. Think grade level. So you saw those offshoot wings of 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Think of those as neighborhoods within a larger community. And then 700 kiddos can seem like a lot. We've gone another layer deeper to make it even more intimate than just by grade level. Think of it as a house. So you saw clusters of classrooms. We may have referred to these as teams in the past, but think of them as houses where a student will be scheduled to become a working member and a part of a very specific house within a neighborhood, within a larger community. So keep that in mind, that concept of really dwindling that down, using the aspect of teaming, which we know has been successful for the middle schools in the past, and kind of carrying that forward in decision making. Stay with that community neighborhood house focus and think, wow, these are 2 big buildings. We have this concept in place. Why change what we're doing on a day-to-day basis? If it's working, why change it? How is this really better for our students? So my goal here was to give you a very brief but thorough enough snapshot as to why. You have the challenge. It would be easy to say, maintain the status quo. Our students receive a quality education in Chambersburg. That was evident on the report card grades that our schools received. So why rock the boat? Here's some examples as to why. A comprehensive schedule, my water, please, is the first time that students could encounter that in 4th grade. Thanks, excuse me. We've been all over the place, 13 buildings, and every 4th grader, 5th grader, or 6th grader has the opportunity when they're pulled together within their neighborhood to experience the same schedule by grade level with all of their classmates. That brings together a little bit of cohesiveness. When you think about in one place, following the same schedule, that's one thing, but cohesiveness in our effort and our purpose in what we're providing to our students. Again, you bring together in a large place, you're minimizing distractions, travel time, allocation of resources, scheduling, and you're really consolidating them so that you are able to maximize what you're offering to students, all in one location. That becomes much easier to do. And class size, you think large building, larger classes, and in reality, it works in the opposite way. 4th and 5th grade, when we look at projected enrollment and we're building these classrooms with these kind of, we could add on later if we need to, if we grow, Class size for 4th and 5th grade remains pretty steady, definitely not increasing. And actually, there's a possibility of when we do pull together and reconfigure, that 6th grade class size could see a reduction in the number of students within it. So right now, we're sitting at about 32 to 34 or 5 students in a class at 6th grade in both middle schools. We have the opportunity to bring that down a bit to make it more manageable for everyone involved. Our teacher collaboration in one spot at the 4 to 6 level would be the highest it's ever been. They're all in one spot, much easier to do. So we'd love to capitalize on that. Concentrated instruction. Imagine you're surrounded by your colleagues teaching the same things and your opportunity to meet and plan and instruct together. That becomes much easier to do if you're used to teaching 3, 2, 3, maybe even 4 subjects, and we can narrow that down to your area of specialty where you're handling planning and instruction of maybe 1 to 2. There's the word teaming again. You're gonna see that continue. It's a trend. It's not going away. Very impactful when it comes to reaching students and generating success. And as we team, being very intentional with how we do that. We're using data. We're using the needs of students to drive how they are teamed or placed on houses. We're also responding to and making sure that we're supporting that CASD goal and blueprint in providing success for our kiddos. Everything we're asking for was affirmed by that survey data that Mr. Bigger has referenced. I think 1,600, I think at last count, responses. So our parents and our community members that completed that affirmed our efforts in our focus right now in 4 to 8 on our 4 core academic subjects. We do have an opportunity here, a very instructionally impactful opportunity to offer that science and social studies both daily, which is not currently being done K to 5. So we have a fantastic opportunity to weave that into our work. Related arts exploratories, the survey confirmed what we're offering to our current middle schoolers. They're very pleased by that, and they have an opportunity for exploratories, but even potentially expanding some offerings in grades 4 and 5, and doing this by looking for efficiencies and being financially responsible in doing so, while maintaining that balance of supports and interventions that we know our students need, being aware of that, and kind of supporting our needs of our kiddos in that fashion. The graphic here was intentional. This is way more, this move, than just a name change. Here's a shift. Boy, that was symbolic. The shift is really going from an elementary and middle mindset to an intermediate and middle foundational mindset shift. These 3 components listed up here, the design feedback, we are wrapping up. We are wrapping up months worth of work on the design phase. I know they mentioned future meetings. We've met in person and we've met virtually with many departments, many teachers. That will culminate this year on June 1st and 2nd. We have teacher meetings scheduled all day throughout both of those in-service days where they are getting a final chance to meet with different departments and groups. That leads us right into staffing. We have already conducted interest surveys for all 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, where they kind of gave us some feedback on where they see themselves when we shift to the reconfiguration. 4th and 5th grade teachers, as well as admin, are next on that list of completing those interest surveys, looking for those efficiencies, planning forward, and then looking at our staffing in regards to how it will impact the course offerings, what we're currently offering, and what we plan to offer future forward thinking and programming when we open in that target fall of 29. This is the key. We've done this a little bit this year. It will continue and gain momentum into next year, and will really be the vehicle for success in pulling off this plan as long as we are on target for that fall of 29 and beyond. 4 critical aspects of this are curriculum alignment. We'll continue to work to accomplish that. Not forgetting necessary student supports. That scheduling model, again, using next year to kind of give us a gauge on how we want to adapt in that 4 to 6 planning, and then efficient and efficiency staffing and teaming in the future. So we as a group look forward, we're ready to go. Blueprint is there. We're ready to break ground once we get the green light to do so. And we are prepared to have these discussions, I think well-versed, on June 2nd to decide next steps in building our one Trojan community. Any questions?
Board members, questions?
Intentional scheduling. Could you give us a little bit more information about that?
So it is currently already being done in elements and pockets differently based on the level of elementary and middle, but intentionally scheduling students being data informed, using data and criteria to help us gauge that.
What kind of data?
It could be assessment data, it could be information that we glean from IEPs, GIEPs, or other 504 plans, and knowing how many sections of certain courses do we need to offer, how do we rotate kids through and provide supports and interventions while not interfering with their core instruction. Really looking at the needs of kiddos along with the data. Our proficiency data is another great example of comparing where we need supports.
It sounds like you have to be very fluid.
You have to be very fluent.
Fluid.
It should adjust to the needs of each individual student group that comes through.
Thank you.
I want to help add to that. What happens if students aren't reading by 3rd grade in 4th grade?
So
is an example that would be very practical.
It's a great discussion.
Yeah.
So I know Mr. Nelson and I have even had conversation even in November, way back in November as he's planning his presentation, making sure that at the intermediate level, we have time, manpower, and an opportunity within the schedule to respond when and if students arrive and aren't reading on grade level. It can't be an afterthought. It has to be intentional in planning for it.
Okay.
If we never have to use it, great, but we've planned for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course, that's where my comment was going to come in. When we decided on the grade level realignment, I did worry a bit about the fourth graders because they are very different than the 6th graders, and we all know that. But yet at the same time, they're still very fragile, and they're going into this building, which is larger. And I wrote down here, supports and interventions have to look, we have to really put the emphasis on there because, as we've said, there are 3rd graders going into 4th grade. So 4th grade can look very different than the 6th graders because of the needs of those kids. They're still very fragile, and in most cases, 4th graders are still elementary, very different than your 5th or 6th graders. And so I know you know that, but it just makes me feel better to say something about that because that was the only concern when we put the 4th grade in the intermediate and didn't keep it at the elementary. That was my concern then. But I think it can be addressed and work just fine, but it has to be noted by everybody.
They are different. 4th through 6th, comparable components to a 6th grader compared to an 8th grader. Very different.
Yeah, same thing.
So we do have to keep in mind to address both the reading by 3rd grade and how that impacts 4th, but also our math fluency by 5th grade and how that would impact 6th. So a lot to think about.
Other questions?
When you're talking about that teaming, the only thing I've seen is like the walk to read, they're going into sections like that. Is it something similar to that when you're saying teaming, that you put equivalent students in a particular area?
All students would be assigned a house or a team, staying with the theme, and they would have a collection of teachers assigned to work with those particular students. So through the course of the day, for their core subjects, they would stay within one area of their grade level neighborhood. So on those drawings, you could go back and kind of look, you'll see clusters of classrooms where you have 3 or 4 classrooms and a flex area, a shared space that could be used instructionally, and students on that house stay within that house. So they're still nestled in a more intimate setting. sharing teachers throughout the day, not roaming all over the building for academics.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Cashdoll.
Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda items 5.01 through 5.18. Tonight's a great time to question, comment, provide your input. As always, we'll start with the administration. If Chris and your team want to highlight any of those items, and then we'll ask board members if they have any questions on the items.
Go ahead, Kurt. I have a couple items. Couple normal ones that are on there, like an exchange student, and but something that's new is 5.10. This is actually Brad Ocker, through his connections and his new job, came across this, met with some of our STEM teachers in the elementary, and they were all about the the Cal Ripken STEM initiative is offering us, and so we're pretty excited. That'll be in 13 schools. We'll join 58 other schools in Pennsylvania, and pretty neat thing.
Free resources, right? Free resources for every classroom.
Right. So some of the consumables that are very small we'll have to replace, like the dough and the batteries and things like that, but they really provide us everything, set it up, give us the resources. So we're pretty excited about that. The next one is 517 and 518 are tied together. I want to thank our technology department, Christine Wagamuth and her team. They applied for a grant through the Pennsylvania Emergency Management and received that. That pays for roughly 70% of our cybersecurity software that we need. The state has a 3-year contract with SentinelOne. And that's going to pay for, we have to match 30% of it, but that's a big chunk to help us pay for our cybersecurity. So 517 and 518 are tied together.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yeah, I would just like to point out item 5.02, which is the Franklin County Career and Technology Center's 26-27 budget. This budget that is being presented tonight is a decrease to the Chambersburg Area School District of just under $115,000. Primarily, that's due to the elimination or the removal of a capital improvement fee that we were charged last year. So I just wanted to point that out to the board.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. I have a question and a comment about 5.11. My question is, Mr. Whitman, does the district recruit exchange students, or does some organization offer opportunities to us? How does that work?
We don't recruit. There's companies that are supportive of that. We have pretty high standards with what visas we accept and the age that we accept. We have, for each one that you see coming through, we probably deny maybe 3 or 4 because they don't have like the correct visa, or they don't have their English isn't proficient enough for us to accept as an exchange student. But it's a lot of companies that are out there that support this type of exchange.
Yeah, I had no clue. And this individual that's going to be here from Italy, I believe?
Yes, going to be a 12th grade student.
I think it's going to be a great opportunity for that young man, and also for everybody that gets to meet him and know him. His qualifications are seem to me to be impeccable, so I think he'll be a great addition to the student body.
Yes.
So thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Piper?
Can I just ask a question about 516, in my ignorance, being new? The contracts from the different organizations, is that based on historical data, or is that known how many students would go to those particular facilities? How is that determined?
Typically, we have reoccurring costs, and annually we have to approve the updated costs for each of those, whether it's Diacon, Hilltop Academy, but we use those programs, our off-site programs, on a regular basis. So it's more of an annual approval of the seats and the cost. It's similar to the LIU, similar to Learning Center, they're just off-site and smaller.
So the numbers on, that some of them have numbers and some of them don't. Is
Correct.
that, you just know about how many you would have
We
per
would.
year typically?
Go ahead.
With like Yellow Breeches and River Rock, we agree on spots. With Diacon, it's it's as needed. Some students through probation may attend Diacon, but we may have to provide the education. It depends on how they're sent there. We also, there's some others like Hoffman Homes that would be per student that needs more of a therapeutic setting. But with River Rock, that's more of our AEDY. I have just the expulsion that's going to be coming to you in 2 weeks. That student will be attending River Rock Academy.
And good news, bad news, we didn't use plenty of our seats in River Rock this year, so we really reduced them.
Yes.
I think we were.
Well,
10 to the
we're
good.
adding some to elementary because we need more spots in elementary, unfortunately, but we're reducing the high school by several spots.
Yeah. And the unfortunate part of that is you gotta pay for them up front, and whether you use them or not is always a risk. But we're in a good spot where we didn't use them this year.
Is there ever an opportunity with that? If we have spots and another district needs them, they can offset that
We
to
do that.
us?
Yep.
Great.
And I've got one question about 5.17. I think that's great, we're getting the grant. My question would be though, maybe since Mrs. Wogemuth is in here tonight, is the Pennsylvania Army National Guard still conducting security inspections, if you will, with us?
We actually had that last year, and they gave us a report. I don't know whether we brought that report here or in a Friday folder.
Friday folder, we did, right.
We probably didn't bring it to public because it talks about
vulnerabilities.
our vulnerabilities. But yes, Mr. Bigger, myself, we sat through their full report, and it was very extensive.
And they will come back if we
Yeah,
ask them
that's
to.
about-
Yeah,
yes.
we need some time to get things implemented for them to return.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, items 5.01 through 5.18 will all be on the consent agenda for one vote. Catch them all in 2 weeks. 7.01 gifts, grants, and donations. Mr. Woodman.
As presented.
Questions or comments?
One donation stands out among all the others, and they're all very generous, but from St. Luke's Lutheran Church, the 18,000, is that like an annual donation rather than some sort of recurring thing? It's a huge amount. Thank you very much, St. Luke's.
Yes, that would be an annual donation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
There are several that are on there a little bit differently. You know, some, they put the amount per week, and it's pretty much every week. Like the one at Stevens is $1,000 a week that Presbyterian Church Falling Spring donates to feed the students at Stevens.
Okay. Those items will go forward on the agenda again for 2 weeks as well. Policy and legislation, 8.01, second reading for policy 217.1, early graduation. This will be second reading. No questions. Item 10, privilege of the floor. Start with those who signed in. Mrs. Jordan states a public comment for a little bit of everything.
I was very excited to hear that the payback for the solar panels on Scotland and Fayetteville are 3.5 to 4 years. That's amazing. And you know that, Mr. You've got them. So do I. I know what my payback is, and it's nowhere, it's 9 years. So I'm pleased with that. Large numbers were spoken here tonight. Now, I have a prepared statement, but I'm really not going to use it. I want everyone to be cognizant of the fact when a small item on an agenda comes up, because first I want to thank you all for keeping the engagement center right where it was at. I couldn't be here that night to thank you all. Large numbers were said, but $60,000 in a $219 million budget actually is 0.000273. So when you start discussions of small items, think about that, okay? Because it's really tiny. To Mr. Raber's point about the capping at 3%, a half a percentage point would have been an extra $1 million inside said budget for next year. This 0.5% would have hardly put a dent in anyone's school tax bills based on property assessment. I was glad to hear about a grant. The grant is any amount offset the cost of doing business in the school district. Case in point, the $249,000 Penna grant voted on reduces the 2.5% increase in the 26-27 budget. Bear that in mind moving forward. Grants help. Many of the taxpayers here, because the county hasn't reassessed, and I want you to all understand this, there are many, many seniors in this county that are paying disproportionately more in their school tax because they've come into the area recently. Many of the seniors here have lived here for decades. So be cognizant of that fact. There are seniors, many that I know, that have moved here within the last couple years. And their houses are based on a, well, I guess I have to quit with that. But anyway, also the 18% increase, well, I just want to say this. Your $38 million in your funds. That's an 18% increase over this year's budget, which is very good. So you're going into a school project,
Okay,
and
Mrs. George.
yes,
Thank you.
I'm going to say you've got cash that you can use for the school projects, and a lot of it. Thank you.
Other members of the audience who wish to make public comment this evening? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Patty Dalloway, live in Chambersburg. And I just want to commend the board for what you're doing with the building projects. I know this is a big step and you're probably going to have a lot of people criticizing it, but it's amazing to me what our school district is working towards. And I'm glad you guys have big shoulders and you can take it, but it's a great project and thank you so much. And thank you for your teams that work together, and you have a lot of good ideas and it's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Parker's not going to show me up tonight, so that's good. Item 12, new business, discussion only. Board members, any topics or thoughts for future items or discussions?
Yeah, I had a thought. And once again, I'm thinking back to our discussion about the budget and our projected tax increase, and mentioned where inflation is. And just today, numbers came out. Inflation nationwide is about the largest increase in over 3 years. And what I like to see in the future is when we put a target on the wall of a certain percentage of an increase, and we have our debate, I'd like to know if we were to add another 0.5% or 1% or whatever the amount we say, it's not how much it costs so much, is what would we be getting with that additional funding? So that when we say, okay, let's stick at 2.5%, what opportunities are we not considering because we're just not thinking about spending more money? So it would be helpful for me, if I wanted to argue for more, a higher amount of a tax increase, to know what we're gonna get for it.
Yeah. No other items? Meeting's adjourned.